Photographed around 1890 on the Great Plains, these two Dakota women pose in front of a tipi raised in the pre-reservation style. Their commercial wool garments and beads show how the fur trade introduced European goods, but the center part hairstyle and the itinerant camp reveal the persistence of Sioux kinship protocols and seasonal mobility. This 1904 portrait shows a young Dine Navajo woman in a studio, something rare when her territory was still under military surveillance. The silver and turquoise necklace, crafted by native silversmiths influenced by Hispano-Mexicans, signals status. Her steady gaze counters the narrative of subjugation and reaffirms the cultural sovereignty of Doneta after the trauma of Bosque Redondo. A Navajo Smile, captured by Edward S. Curtis in 1904, challenges the Victorian myth of Indian seriousness. The smile resonates with Dine emotional resilience only a few generations after the captivity at Round Forest, 1864-68. By revealing pearly teeth, the model asserts health and joy, contesting stereotypes of perpetual decay. Seated on a rustic bench in the Pueblo of Taos, CE 1905, this young Tewa woman wears a locally woven striped wool blanket. Her upright posture echoes the matrilineal order in which women controlled the land. The fresh adobe plaster in the background signals the continuity of pre-Hispanic architecture, despite the Catholic missions and emerging tourist pressure in New Mexico. A 1902 portrait shows the iconic Hopi pumpkin roll hairstyle, worn by single young women to indicate marriage readiness after the blue corn harvest. Shortly thereafter, federal troops would attempt to forbid the snake ceremonies. The shell necklaces imported from the Gulf of California reveal pre-colonial trading networks still active. In 1903 Arizona, this young Apache woman carries her baby in a willow cradleboard designed to protect the spine during long walks. The nomadic way of life was being curtailed by the reservations. The image captures the transition from hunter-gatherers to coerced farmers, without relinquishing the traditional childcare that allowed constant mobility. Two Apache women prepare a communal meal in an iron kettle, 1903. The industrial utensil replaces ancient clay pots, a sign of Anglo-American mercantile penetration. Even so, steaming techniques and the division of tasks by clan persist, expressions of cultural resistance in everyday post-Apache war life. Photographed in 1923 on the banks of the Trinity River, this Hoopa woman sports a marten collar and elk-tooth necklaces, ceremonial currency of Northwest California. The photo was taken as logging advanced. Collectors feared disappearance and bought such pieces, straining boundaries between preservation and museum appropriation. In this 1908 studio portrait, the Arikara woman wears a blanket made from a repurposed military blanket, appropriating colonial symbols. After smallpox epidemics decimated her people, the Arikara merged with the Mandan and Hidatsa. In the new villages, women led horticulture, trade, and intertribal diplomacy in the upper Missouri. A 1903 record in the Arizona desert shows a Mojave woman balancing a clay pot on her head while guiding her son to the Colorado River. The carrying technique attests to hydraulic mastery in an arid ecosystem. The dam era was approaching. The photo becomes a memory of a self-sufficient riverine way of life about to be drastically altered. 5 young Hopi descend to the communal well in 1906, shortly before the government imposed mechanical pumps. The clay jars, shaped by matrilineal relatives, symbolize water autonomy on an arid plateau. The cotton skirts woven on a waist loom reveal the continuity of a women's industry, whose output supplied caravans along the Colorado River route. This Hopi matron, 1907, draws water from a stone-lined well built by missionaries, but she retains the black manta shawl and yucca fiber sandals that predate European contact. Her serene expression indicates domestic authority among a people where property is inherited through the maternal line, defying Anglo-American gender norms introduced with the mission schools. In 1903, a Zuni potter kneads clay containing crushed shale powder, a technique that prevents cracks during firing. Her bent posture echoes centuries of ceremonial production tied to the worship of the sun and rain. At the turn of the century, collectors in Santa Fe would pay high prices for authentic pottery, creating a market that threatened the piece's original domestic use. An Acoma woman, 1905, displays turquoise jewelry set in hammered silver, an art form spread by Navajo silversmiths after 1880. Her hair parted down the middle with ribbons indicates married status. Living atop a basalt mesa sky city, her people had resisted Spanish attacks for centuries. The photo celebrates that pride, even under the supervision of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Tuch Woo Woo, a young Tlingit from Sitka photographed in 1907, wears a commercial wool shawl with Chilkat patterns inspired by animal clans, signaling maternal lineage. After the Klondike Gold Rush, missionaries attempted to ban potlatch dances. The portrait preserved for posterity traces of a gift-giving system that governed status, redistribution, and tribal alliances. An alternative image of Tuch Woo Woo shows copper earrings obtained through Russian-German trade in the 19th century. The choice to pose in a Western studio reveals cultural negotiation. She adopts a Victorian portrait posture without relinquishing clan symbols. This hybrid illustrates how Tlingit women mediated economic exchanges between sea mammal pelts and European manufactured goods. 3 Inupiat women from Selawik, Alaska, 1929, kneel on moss as they sew waterproof gut parkas. The industrialization of whale oil had already collapsed commercial whaling, but Inuit subsistence endured. The U.S. Geological Survey photographer sought racial types. The subjects, however, display artisanal autonomy essential to the Arctic. Mother and child from Nunivak, 1929, wear handmade sealskin parkas sewn with caribou tendon, materials that breathe without freezing. The child holds a miniature paddle, a preview of cooperation in marine hunting. At the time, federal schools were attempting to replace Inupiat with English. The photo documents family cohesion that resisted forced linguistic assimilation. Ola Noatak, 1929, features an Inupiat woman wrapped in a parka with an Arctic wolf collar, a sign of prestige. The expedition that photographed her sought climate data. Inadvertently, it recorded the sophisticated textile adaptation of a people who turned mammoth and caribou tusks into needles, remaining mobile in an environment where temperatures dropped to 40 degrees Celsius. An Apsaroki, crow mother with her baby, 1908, holds a cradle board richly embroidered with glass beads imported by the Northern Pacific Railroad. After serving as scouts for the U.S. Army, the Crow secured a reservation larger than average. Their women, bearers of agricultural savoir-faire, continued weaving clan symbols that legitimized ownership and alliance within the nation. This Apsaroki, Crow mother, photographed in 1908, carries her daughter in a folded wool blanket on her back, a method that frees her hands to gather tobacco and wild potatoes on the Montana prairies. After serving as scouts for the U.S. Army, the Crow maintained their equestrian reputation. The cloth embroidered in purple displays moth motifs associated with the Whistling Water clan. Cecilia Joaquin, a Pomo woman photographed in 1924, selects chia seeds near Clear Lake, California. She wears ash seed bead necklaces that served as currency. A year earlier, the state had banned traditional controlled burns. The image documents ecological resistance, since harvesting chia relied on fire to germinate new crops. In front of a mesquite branch wickiup, this Pima woman poses in 1907 in the Gila River Valley, Arizona. The clay jar beside her stores water cooled by evaporation, a technique indispensable before the federal irrigation canals. The Pima, expert cotton farmers, saw their lands flooded by dams. The portrait captures an autonomy about to be submerged. Nicknamed the Zuni Belle, the young woman of 1903 wraps herself in a striped Spanish wool blanket, and fastens her hair with silver sticks. Her slight, ironic expression reflects the curiosity of railroad tourists flocking to the Santa Fe fairs. While the adjective belle exoticizes her charm, her dignified posture reaffirms the Zuni matriarchy, where women hold property inheritance. This Zuni girl, 1903, wears 5 strands of heishi shell beads imported from the Gulf of California, illustrating pre-contact trade routes of over 1,000 kilometers. The neutral studio background hides the multi-scale adobe village where she lived. There, girls performed the sweet water ceremony, praying for rain in deserts that receive just 250 mm annually. Thus, youthful beauty is allied with agricultural supplication. Close-up Zuni ornaments, 1903, captures the use of silver discs, newly popular after Navajo silversmiths learned hammering from Mexican blacksmiths. Each piece bears turquoise pendants, a stone symbolizing health and rain. The fusion of external techniques with local cosmology demonstrates creative adaptation in the face of tourism demanding authentic souvenirs. Between 1868 and 1880, 2 Santee Sioux women posed in Sioux City, Iowa, seated and wrapped in commercial wool blankets. The stereographic portrait documents the period just after the Dakota War, 1862, when hundreds of families were removed to reservations in Nebraska. The frontal framing and direct gaze reaffirm female dignity amid military repression and missionary pressure. Apache Squaw's basket work, 1908. An artisan stands before a pile of ola baskets made from devil's claw fiber dyed with wild blackberry bark. Reservation governments encouraged production for sale, but the spiral designs preserved sacred rain calendars. Thus, commerce became a vehicle for cosmological transmission in the full era of federal rationing. Photographed in 1923, this Hoopa shaman displays a trio of ceremonial baskets used in brush dance healing rituals. The sewn dentalium shells form a sounding cascade that invokes the River Trinity's water spirits. The 1920s saw a logging advance in the redwood. The portrait documents the female priesthood that mediated ecological balance in the face of intensive clear-cutting. Close-up of the principal Hoopa shaman, also 1923, reveals dotted chin tattoos, marks of spiritual status that missionaries tried to erase. The clarity of the glass plate shows elk-tooth beads, products of trade along the Pacific coast. Her direct gaze reiterates authority in a society where women held medicinal knowledge and the right of marital repudiation.